What lurks beneath the surface of the internet?
You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
This week, Matt and I covered what's called the deep net, or the dark net, or any number of combinations of words that sound like that, you know? A little bit sinister, a little bit creepy, sure. But what is it exactly? Well, it's kind of a vague term because it's comprised of anything that's just not indexed by search engines. So it's not necessarily all criminal activity, you know, it's not necessarily all a bunch of people planning to topple a Middle Eastern regime or something, but it could just be stuff that's behind some sort of authentication wall, something that requires a form to access, things like that. And if we want to compare the size, then one great analogy that you'll hear often is that the surface internet, the stuff that's indexed by Google, Bing, Yahoo, web crawlers galore, then that would be sort of like the tip of an iceberg. So it's our iceberg drawing. I know, it's not the best, but you get the picture. The stuff below the water, of course, is the deep net, or the dark net, or the deep web, or whatever. And it's much, much larger. And for most of our listeners, you guys are probably already very familiar with the deep web. This is one of the topics that Matt and I felt like we needed to cover because it's something everybody should know about for a few very important reasons. The most important reason we'll cover at the end of this video. However, the first big question is, how do I get to the deep web if I want to get there, right? Well, you're going to need some software. You're going to need to download a couple of things. One of the most popular is called Tor, which originally stood for the Onion Router. Now, Tor uses a bunch of connections to take sort of a circuitous route to the thing you're trying to find, and you'll often hear it called a tool for anonymity. Really what it does more is kind of obfuscate or hide. It makes you harder to find. It doesn't make you necessarily invisible. And in the brave new world of the NSA and all the other monitoring activities online, it's increasingly important to wonder if we can actually be anonymous. There are other programs too. Tor's not the only game in town. There's also Freenet. So let's say you get there and you get on Tor and you check out something like the Hidden Wiki, which is a list of all the things that you can find in the seedy part of the deep web. What you're gonna find is a bunch of stuff that claims to do a bunch of things. You'll find offers to sell or buy drugs on the Silk Road, which we mentioned in our episode. That's real, that does happen. You'll find opportunities to hire hit people, assassins. I don't know if it's real, but you know, who would verify, who would go back on the assassin Yelp and be like 4 out of 5 stars, wish they made it look like a car accident. And then you can find people selling guns in Euro arms. You can find people purporting to do non-consensual human experimentation. There is also loads of illegal, horrible pornography. And I'm not saying that, you know, pornography in general is bad, but the kind of stuff they're doing is straight out illegal. No ifs, ands, or buts. You can also find a couple of other things like people offering to steal stuff for you. You can buy credit card information. You can get hackers on your side, apparently. Now, again, the problem here is that being anonymous, it's tough to verify or figure out the authenticity of a lot of these offers. But there is I guess what people call a criminal element. One thing that's interesting that Matt and I found about Tor specifically is that it was made by the US Navy, by a research agency there. And so just like other conspiracy theories we've heard about so-called free internet services that may or may not be related to an intelligence service somewhere down the line, Tor is originally based on research done by the US government. So if we're spending so much time talking about criminal elements, talking about illicit, illegal, immoral things, then why would somebody use the deep web? Is there a legitimate reason? Yes, Absolutely, because again, the definition is very broad. It could just be anything that's not indexed. It could be just gigs and gigs of spreadsheets from 10 years ago on some corporate giant's website, and they might not even be important spreadsheets, you know? It's just stuff that's on the internet, because we have a lot of junk on the net, right? But there's another thing. There's another hugely important reason that Matt and I support the idea of a deep web. Now, to my knowledge, and Matt, stop me if I'm speaking out of turn, neither of us has ever gone on to the Amazon of illegal drugs known as the Silk Road, nor have we bought weapons from Euroarms or anything like that. But this ability to circumvent a country's firewall poses amazing opportunities for people across the world who live in repressive regimes. Freenet, again, a similar piece of software to Tor attempting anonymity, was made to assist activists, to assist activism. And as we know, we've seen this during the Middle East when Egypt's internet was shut down. We've seen this in multiple other countries. In the United States, where as far as we know, every single bit of activity is in some way monitored, in places like Iran, where there's a huge firewall or there's harsh control over what a person could or could not see. This sort of software does present a concrete opportunity for people who are being victimized by a larger state or a larger controlling authority to communicate with one another, to get outside of the shell that has been imposed upon them. And for this reason, there is a tremendous value to the idea of Tor, to the idea of a deep web or those parts of the deep web. Again, I want to underscore this. We're very careful with this because there are a lot of technical aspects that we didn't want to speak out against. We may well have gotten some things wrong. But we also, again, feel like this is something that people need to know about. I mean, if you're watching our show right now in a place that has harsh internet controls, then obviously you already know what we're talking about, and thank you for watching. If you have some tips that you'd like us to share with your fellow listeners, let us know, and we will do our best to get the word out to everyone. One last thing, Matt and I, in our internet travels, checking this out for our series, we stumbled on so much information, and we'd like to toss the question to you. What is the strangest thing you've seen on the deep web? What do you think is legitimate, and what do you think is trolling? Are there any conspiracy theories or hidden knowledge that you have found on the deep web that you think deserves to make it to the surface and be known? We would love to put it on our show. We'd love to learn more about, as always, the stuff they don't want you to know. So let us know here in the comments. Thanks for watching. As always, you can drop us a line on Twitter if you prefer to contact us that way. You can send us an email at conspiracy@discovery.com, and we will see you next week.